Karl Seelbach of Doyle and Seelbach is a very successful litigation defense attorney who's been practicing law for 20 years. He has built a very successful law firm, but he always had an itch to start a technology company. And he is now on his third startup. This one was built by attorney for attorneys, and the name of the startup is Scribe. It's been around for over a year and a half and is now well into 7 figures in annual revenue, as attorneys have been signing up to use the platform because of how good it is. Tune into this podcast episode to hear Karl's story, how he came up with the idea, why this tool works amazingly well, and how it could work for you and save you a ton of time and a ton of money. Hi there. I have a small but really meaningful favor to ask you. I watch at the stats on our YouTube channel and Spotify channel, wherever most people listen and watch our podcast, and I see that over 80% of everybody who listens to it regularly is not a subscriber. I'm asking you to subscribe to this channel, and the reason for that is my mission, and the mission of my team is to help as many small law firm owners to learn how to transform their law firms into better businesses, and so they in turn enjoy better lives. When you hit subscribe button, you tell these platforms that this is content worth listening, worth viewing, and they in turn will show it to many other small law firm owners, and hopefully help me fulfill our mission of helping them create a better business and enjoy better lives. So would you please do me this favor? It would mean the world to me, and hit the subscribe button. And my promise to you is that I will continue to work hard at creating good content with practical ideas that help you and your teams grow better law firms. Thank you. Welcome to another episode of GLF Podcast. I have a terrific guest with me here today, Karl Seelbach, who is a defense attorney by trade, but also a fairly seasoned tech entrepreneur who's been building software for attorneys, for medical practitioners early on, and now has a tool called Scribe that he built specifically for attorneys. And welcome to the show.
Sasha, thank you. I'm really excited to be here and get a chance to visit with you.
Yeah, before we hit the record button, we talked about the platform and how you got into it. I think it's a fascinating journey. I do meet from time to time attorneys who have the inkling for starting tech startups. And you have done so far successfully. You have raised funds for this startup, self-funded initially, but also were able to raise funds. And now you are in the 7-figure territory only 19 months after launching the platform. That's quite a success story. Congrats on that.
Yeah, thank you very much. It hasn't been easy, but it has been a fun adventure. That's for sure.
Yeah, I bet. Tell folks who are listening, watching, reading about this, the background on the Scribe tool.
Yeah. So again, I'm an attorney by trade. That's what I did right out of law school, was join a big firm. And so Scribe is what inspired me to start Scribe. Is I've taken and defended hundreds of depositions in my career. I'm a litigator, and I was always perplexed at how old-fashioned the method was for capturing testimony. Yep. You would sit around a conference room table. A court reporter would type everything that's said on a really funny looking keyboard called a stenograph machine. That machine was invented back in 1877. Hasn't been a ton of modernization around that process. And if you want a video of the testimony, you would have to hire a videographer to come in person, set up a bunch of expensive video equipment to video the witness. And then after the deposition was over, to get a copy of those things, you'd usually have to wait 3 to 4 weeks before you had a copy of your video, before you had a copy of your transcript. And so as a litigator who loves technology, and I've always looked for ways to use technology in my life and my work, I thought there's got to be a better way to do this. There's got to be a way to speed this up and use software to modernize the entire process. And so I'd had the idea for a long time, and I'd met my co-founder, Tom Irby, back when he owned a court reporting company years ago. And we had conversations around the concept, and we were like, hey, there's got to be a better way to do this. Should it be like Uber? We were trying to come up with a marketplace concept. We had all types of ideas, and we never really pursued any of them because none of them felt like this was it. Like none of them felt like we can knock this out of the park. There was always some piece of it that we didn't like. And then COVID hit in 2020. And so when COVID hit, within a few months, everything started shifting to online platforms like Zoom, depositions, courtroom hearings, obviously, meeting with clients, all the things, right? Even school. My kids went to school on Zoom for a whole semester. And the light bulb kind of went off that, hey, if we're doing these depositions on Zoom, why are we paying a court reporter to type what's said when we can use software to process it? Why are we paying a videographer to press record when the attorneys can press record themselves? So I reconnected with Tom. He agreed, 100%, and we decided to start Scribe. And so Scribe provides legal professionals with a very fast, easy, and less expensive way to capture testimony through software. And so essentially that's it in a nutshell.
So super fascinating. Like a lot of good startups, they're starting with an idea of how to do something that's been done for a really long time, but in a much better way. I understand that your platform, Scribe, is a whole of a lot faster. And based on what you told me earlier, it's 50 to 60% cheaper than actually going the traditional route. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I mean, a lot of clients, they find Scribe because they're looking to save money. We've stumbled into Facebook groups and other communities of attorneys online where unprompted, like people are just talking about, what are some pain points in their practice and in their day-to-day life as attorneys and as litigators. And there's a lot of vocal complaints around just how expensive court reporting has become. And it's not only is it frustrating, it's actually a barrier to justice, because in some of these cases, there are cases where the attorneys literally cannot afford to take depositions for their clients because there's not enough money at issue. Like, think about a small car wreck case. So let's, in a lot of states, the minimum policy limit is only $30,000 on insurance policies. So if you have a small car wreck case with a $30,000 the most you're going to recover, because that's all the insurance there is, you can't go spend $2,000 a piece to take 5 depositions, because at that point you've already spent $10,000 of the available, policy limits. It just, the math doesn't work. And so we've had attorneys tell us they literally can't afford to really achieve justice for their clients because they can't afford to take depositions. So that's the number one reason people come to us, is the cost savings. It is about 50 to 60% less expensive. But I think really what keeps them coming back is the speed and the features. And so, like in that the story I told earlier, traditional deposition, it really does take anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks to get a copy of your deposition, unless you want to pay a rush fee, which is like a double fee, or sometimes 150% markup over what you would otherwise pay to get it faster. And so what Tom and I wanted to do is provide a solution where, similar to this podcast, when this is over, you will have a copy of the recording within 5 minutes, right? We wanted to provide that similar experience to attorneys when they take depositions, so that they can finish a deposition and within an hour, they have access to a transcript, sync to the video, and tools to search and create clips and work with that testimony so that they can go on to the next thing on their task list.
What's an average cost of a testimony?
Yeah, average cost to take a deposition without Scribe. So we'll talk traditional method first. Yeah. The status quo, as we call it. The average cost is about $800 per hour to get a video and a transcript and have those two things synced together. So anywhere from $800 to, we've seen as high as $1,000 an hour. That probably sounds crazy to listeners who don't take depositions. Like, how could it possibly cost that much? And it is quite high. But, there's a lot of humans in the loop, as they say, that causes that price to go up. Scribe, by comparison, is $349 an hour. So it's less than half of what we see in the market as the typical price to take a deposition. So you can take a 2-hour deposition on Scribe for just under $700. And so that's pretty refreshing for attorneys who are used to paying a whole lot more than that. And we don't cut any corners. Like, that includes the video, a rough transcript. Again, within about an hour, you get both of those things delivered to you. And then within a week, you get a legally formatted, human proofread transcript that is just as accurate and looks just like the transcripts that attorneys are used to seeing. And we provide a web application where the attorneys can actually go in and work with the testimony. So what do I mean? I like to tell people that if you know how to highlight a PDF or you know how to select text in a Microsoft Word, you can now create your own video clips. So in Scribe, you log in, the text is on the left, the video is in the middle, and you can just highlight the text and tap create clip, and it will create a video clip for you that you can either download or you can share it like a YouTube clip. It'll create a URL where you can embed that into a demand letter or a brief or wherever you want to send it. And the recipient doesn't even need an account to view the clip that you created. They just click it, the browser opens up, and it plays the corresponding video for them. So it's a really, really cool tool.
Sounds like a very, very user-centric platform. Of
Yeah,
that
yeah. In fact,
per hour,
go ahead. Sorry, Sasha.
of that $3.49 per hour, how much of that human component? Because you do have a human reviewing the actual transcript, raw transcript, and then formatting it the proper way. How much of that $3.49 is actually spent on the human doing that human work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, and actually, it leads me to another point that I'd love to cover with you and your audience. So, there's actually two humans in the loop. So, I don't want any listeners to think, "Oh my God, this is just AI," and how are we going to make
exactly
sure that?
Why I'm asking that question.
Yeah.
So $3.49 for just AI. Come on, man. That's
this is just AI. A, why isn't it cheaper? And B, how can we rely on it? And the answer is, it's not just AI. There are actually multiple humans in the loop. We staff every deposition event with a certified notary in the state where the proceeding is taking place. That person swears in the witness. That person provides technical support. They monitor the audio and the video quality. They make sure that if there's unique terms or terms, spellings of names, things like that, they capture that so that the transcriptionist will know how to spell certain words or terms when they're proofreading the transcript. And then at the end of the event, it gets handed off to a professional transcriptionist to actually go through and check every single line, every single word, format it, all the things that go into making a final transcript. So yeah, there's multiple humans in the loop. I don't know the exact margins off the top of my head. Tom would, if he were on the show. That's kind of his universe, is managing all the numbers. But a significant portion of it does go to pay the humans in the loop. I think where the industry is headed, like between you and me, particularly as the software gets better and better and better, is probably eventually to a place where that's optional. What do I mean by that? We can staff the event with a notary if you want to, and we can provide professional proofreading if you want to, but we can also provide a software-only experience if that's what you want. And here's what that means. That means the video is the certified record, and you're going to have a very high quality transcript to reference the video. And so we have some customers that have actually asked for that. We haven't launched anything like that yet, but I do think that's where the industry is headed.
That makes perfect sense. So it's by the book. It's just not by the 1876 book or 1877 book. It's by 2025 book.
That's right. 100%.
It makes a lot of sense. So yes, I assume once it's just pure technology, no humans involved, it will be considerably cheaper, but it may also not be at the level where a lot of litigation attorneys would want it to be. So you probably still want to have that notary there.
Yeah, I think it's I think it's also a little bit of a difference between a white, what people call a white glove experience, where you're being handheld through the process. You don't have to worry. Someone else is going to be in the virtual room with you to make sure that everything goes off very, very smoothly. Versus people who are just comfortable with software and are like, what, I don't need that person sitting here. I've got this. I can handle it. And some of that is related to how tech savvy the users are. I would dare to say that some of it's generational. I think this next generation of attorneys, if I think to some of my associates at my firm that are in their 20s, they are extremely tech savvy. And some of them have grown up. Some of them have never taken an in-person deposition because all they know is Zoom depositions or Scribe depositions. And that's just all they've ever done because the market shifted, after COVID. So I think as the next generation begins to take their seat at the table, so to speak, and making decisions of how things operate, how things are done, that it is everything's just not just depositions, but every aspect of how we work and how we practice law is going to be more and more and more software driven.
That makes perfect sense. And that is one of the reasons why your tool, Scribe, is fully integrated with Zoom, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah, 100% right. Yeah, we are a Zoom ISV partner. And what that essentially means is, well, a couple things. One, we made the decision as a company that we aren't trying to replace Zoom. Zoom is very good at what they do. A ton of courts, I would say the vast majority of courts nationwide have official Zoom accounts. So Zoom has kind of become in the legal world, this is not to say they dominate every industry, but in the legal industry, Zoom is the most dominant player when it comes to video conferencing. There have been some companies who have tried, and at least one has failed to replace Zoom. There was a startup that launched a fully custom video conferencing platform that was supposed to be for lawyers, and it was going to look like a virtual courtroom, on the screen, to where you sat on this side of the table if you were this party, and the other side if you were this party, and all those things look good in marketing flyers. But at the end of the day, if people can't join the meeting because of a firewall at their company, or you have a witness who's on an iPad or a phone and they just need to be able to join the meeting, that's kind of a showstopper if you can't get people in the room on a reliable connection. And so the bet that we made was people like Zoom. It's widely adopted, widely accepted. And so far, that's been the right decision. We've had a lot of very favorable feedback from people who are like, yeah, this makes perfect sense. My witnesses, I don't have to train them on something new. Large companies that have all sorts of security practices, most of them allow Zoom, so it's been smooth so far. And Zoom's been very supportive. I mean, we have a couple of account executives at Zoom that we talk to on a regular basis. They're a big fan of what we're doing. In fact, stay tuned. We may have a larger partnership with them at some point in the future.
Good luck with that. What really caught my attention, and this is me going off a tangent, is you said that most courts have adopted using Zoom as a regular practice now. Now, we're coming up on the 5-year anniversary of the COVID shutdown. We're recording this mid-January of 2025. So in a couple of months, it will be 5-year anniversary. Imagine 6 years ago, someone would have come up to you and like, yeah, almost every courtroom, they use Zoom now.
Yeah, I would have said you were crazy. I would have said it's probably never going to happen. I think that even the business, of Scribe wouldn't exist if the COVID had not happened. So, maybe that's the silver lining in going through a pandemic, as it did open the eyes, not just with what we're doing, but so many industries have changed, radically changed in a way that, has made life more convenient, I would say, has made it more convenient. And, the courts also still operate in person. It's not like they're exclusively doing Zoom hearings, but I've talked to a lot of judges, state and federal judges, who vast majority, they appreciate the convenience that Zoom provides for some of the people that need to appear in their courtroom. And there's a couple of aspects of it that I think sometimes the public maybe isn't fully aware of. One is the cost of in-person hearings at a courtroom. When I think back to being a young lawyer, I would get sent to hearings where I would drive to the courthouse, which would take some time, either 30 minutes to an hour, or if it was out of town, 2-3 hours, drive to the courthouse, pay to park, sit in the courtroom, and just wait to be called, for our case to be called. And that process could take another hour or two, just to be seen for maybe 15 minutes. The hearing itself may only be 15 minutes. And then I get out, have lunch, which is billed to the file, drive home another hour or 2 or 3, depending on how far it is. So I think a lot of judges realize you can really cut costs down for clients if you allow people to participate remotely. And for people who aren't attorneys, like think a witness needs to appear in a courtroom in a family law case or a personal injury case, any type of case. If it's not the trial and it's just some other type of hearing, that person if they have to come down to the courthouse, they may have to take a half day or full day off work, arrange for childcare, some other type of major inconvenience in their life that's going to cost them money, paying to park at the courthouse, versus just signing on from Zoom and being available remotely. So obviously I'm a big proponent, but I really do think the benefits far outweigh the cons when it comes to remote attendance at everything except trial. I think trials should be in person. I think there's a reason that they're in person. But every other type of hearing, I think, could be conducted over Zoom for the most part.
I'm not an attorney, but makes perfect sense to me. Let's talk about dollars and cents. So how many hours? And I know there is no average case, but a typical case, if you had to guess it, how many hours of testimony gets recorded for a typical personal injury case?
That's a good question. I don't know. That's a really good question. I'll give you some numbers that I know, and then I'll give you some estimates. Average deposition in our experience so far is about 2 to 2.5 hours. Some are shorter and some are longer. I was in some depositions earlier this week, and one of the depositions lasted 6 hours. One of the depositions lasted 3 hours, and one of the depositions lasted under 20 minutes. So it can vary depending on how much information the attorney, is trying to get out of the witness, or if the witness really has relevant information or not, and what's the role in the case. But on average, what we're seeing on the Scribe side of the house is about a 2 to 2.5 hour average per witness. And then if you think about, in a case, you said like how many hours total in the case. Again, it depends on the practice area. So, what type of case are we talking about? I'll just use personal injury as an example because it's what I know, and it's also what a lot of people are familiar with. You think car wreck case, think work injury case. Well, you're going to have for sure the plaintiff. You're going to have for sure at least one representative from the defendant. And you're probably going to have at least a couple of other fact witnesses. So let's just say 4 people-ish, plus expert witnesses. So let's say another 3 to 4 witnesses. We'll just say 8 to make the math a little easier. So, you're looking at 8 times an average of 2. So 16 hours of testimony potentially in a case. So, which, under the old model, like we were talking about earlier, what does that mean? That means potentially $16,000 worth of deposition expenses versus, Scribe's model, which cuts that by more than half.
Yeah. This is where I was going with this, because from dollars and cents.
Yeah.
Like, how do you justify investment into this? But you only pay for usage, right? Or is there a subscription fee there as well?
You just pay for usage. We have talked about, as we add more and more features into the platform, more premium features like that have, obviously the usage based is what the attorneys want for taking a deposition. They've told us that loud and clear. And that's because I think it's a few reasons. It's what they're used to. And also when they have an expense on a case, they're able to, it's a pass-through expense. Like if we're talking about dollars and cents and the economics behind it, when you take a deposition, that is a pass-through expense. It's not considered overhead. And as so many companies come to the market with subscription-based products are most of the time, not all, but most of the time, those are considered a firm's overhead. So that's at a high level, that's a pretty important distinction. But I think as we continue to grow, there probably will be a subscription option. I'm not going to say requirement, like you'll still be able to take a deposition with Scribe without a subscription. But as we add more features into the platform, I think at some point we'll tie some of those to a premium subscription offering.
So let's run the math. So $6,000 to $8,000 are the savings to the firm. Yes, it's passed through savings down the line, but personal injury law firms, especially on the plaintiff side, they work on contingency, so they have to front those costs.
That's right.
So I'm imagining that, let's call it an average savings of $7,000 per case. Let's say it's a smaller law firm that has 5 to 10 cases where they need to perform deposition on average per month. Let's call it another 7 cases, call it 7 cases per month times $7,000 in savings. It's $49,000 per month multiplied by 12. It's about $600,000 a year. That's potentially what Scribe can save you in upfront costs.
Yeah, I think we should hire you. I mean,
Pretty good.
I like your math, and your math is spot on. I mean, one of the things that we talked about putting on our website as we begin to refresh it at some point this
Okay.
year is a cost calculator. Is,
Yeah,
how many depositions does your firm do per month? And
of
you
course.
kind of just did that exercise here
Of
on
course.
the show. So, but that's an
Add more,
excellent way to think about it.
yeah, add one more variable to it. A lot of law firms will seek financing for carrying all those costs while they're litigating. That
Right.
financing can come at an interest rate of 12, 14, 16%. Let's call it 12%. And let's say that any given moment of time, you are carrying that $600,000 times 12%. All of a sudden, it's $720,000, which is an astounding number if you think about it. Whereas you can save that cost by simply switching to this newer platform that's already integrated with Zoom. It would be hard pressed to find a human being today, at least in this country, who hasn't used Zoom.
Right. That's right.
Everyone used Zoom at least a few dozen times. I use Zoom, not our primary tool. We use Google Meets for most of our meetings. However, I use Zoom at least once or twice per day for various meetings with
Right.
outside of my company. It's a very, very simple tool to use.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree 100%.
So this is the free plug, scribe.ai. It's SKRIBE.ai. Go there, check it out. There's no savings calculator there yet, but it does say it's a Zoom partner, a better way to take and analyze testimony. 50% less expensive, 10 times the speed versus traditional court reporting. Here's your 20-second commercial.
Well, I think you already recorded it, Sasha. It was
Oh, I
beautiful.
already,
I mean, like it was very
absolutely.
well done. No, I mean, look, at the end of the day, I mean, like when I think about what Scribe is really trying to do, is we're trying to transform the way attorneys take testimony and accelerate justice.
Yep.
A big
Like,
part of our mission is to make it faster and easier for attorneys and their clients to take and analyze testimony. And so it's just kind of baked into our DNA. If like I think about it from an owner standpoint, from a partner standpoint, if I want to figure out what happened in a deposition, I don't want to have to sift through hundreds of pages of a PDF transcript. I just want to be able to ask an AI, like, what did the witness say about their history of back problems? And have the AI pull out of that 2, 3, 6 hour deposition all of the testimony where that topic was discussed. And so that's part of what we built here is like being able to leverage modern tools to speed up the process and make it really simple. So yeah, you had a great little commercial slot there. I appreciate the shout out and the website and the correct spelling and all the things. But we care about this stuff. I mean, we really care about making a positive difference in the attorneys' lives and making it easier for them to do really good work. And I think that we have other tools that we'll be building in the future, but everything we've talked about today is available. And come kick the tires. Check it out.
sounds amazing. Let's address one more point, and that is whenever we talk about adopting a new tool, there's naturally some resistance because you're asking someone to change their existing process, something that they're really used to.
Yeah.
How long does it take to learn how to use Scribe?
Yeah, I mean, look, if you know how to join a Zoom room, then you can use Scribe because the meeting itself is hosted in Zoom. So that's one of the reasons I think we've been able to achieve some success so far is part of the pitch is, look, if you know how to join a Zoom, you can join a Scribe event. Because we are tied into Zoom. So it's very simple. There's really nothing to learn. Again, if you can highlight a document or a PDF or whatever, you can work with the web application. We made it extremely simple to use. Now, our customer support team is fantastic. They're available, almost every single day of the week for customer support questions, but there's very little learning time or kind of time to get familiar with the platform. It's extremely intuitive.
Would you say it's under 1 hour?
For sure. I would say if you can't figure it out in under 10 minutes, we haven't done it right.
Got it. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you're watching this, as you're listening to this, and taking a mental note, don't. Just go to your browser, click try it for free. There's a big blue tab up in the upper right-hand corner. Just fill out a very short form and try it for free. It will take you about 10 minutes to get going, and then you'll be like I love it, or no, I'm going to stick to my old ways and continue paying double the cost and wait for about 10 times longer to get my stuff.
Yeah,
Sounds,
you
which
hit the
sounds
you hit the,
awful now that I put it that way.
yeah, you hit the nail on the head. And the free trial is no strings. Though I was adamant when we launched the free trial. No, we're not going to require a credit card. No, we're not going to force them into some type of subscription that they have to cancel to get out of. It is literally a free trial. Sign up, no strings attached. You don't have to enter any credit card information. You can create an account, you can upload a file, you can get it processed, you can see what the tool does, test it yourself, and then decide if you want to use it or not.
For a moment there, I wished I was a lawyer and got to use it.
It's never too late, Sasha.
Not last time, no, not my gig, but it sounds like an incredible tool. Karl,
Well,
thank you
cool.
so much for coming on the show and sharing the insights and building this, what sounds like really an amazing tool.
Thank you, Sasha. I appreciate you having me on the show. It's been a pleasure visiting with you.